We're pleased to have a partnership with the Ministry of Citizenship and Immigration, along with United Way of Toronto. There are two lead sponsors for this event today, and we'd like to thank him and welcome him to the podium.
Well, good afternoon. It's a pleasure being here today. It's nice to be able to walk into a room and to recognize so many folks, so thank you for having me. It's my first opportunity as minister to meet all of you, as the leaders and drivers of our Ontario not-for-profit sector. When I think of our government's commitment to building a fair society and a strong economy, I think of all the great work that you're doing in the communities that you represent. So I want to thank you for your hard work. I also want you to know that I stand behind our government's commitment to strengthening the not-for-profit sector and to promote the growth of the volunteer sector here in this beautiful province. It isn't your cause, it isn't my cause, it's our cause. And I'm proud to champion that at the cabinet table on your behalf and on behalf of the communities of our province. So as you mentioned, I have a bit of experience in the not-for-profit sector. I served at the Toronto District School Board working with many of the groups that are here today, and also served as the executive director of a literacy organization. And I learned a lot, much which I believe prepared me for the job that I'm doing here today. As minister responsible for the not-for-profit sector, I've been able to build on the good work that's been going on to strengthening our relationship between the sector and our government. So today I'm pleased to be able to share with you some of the first accomplishments of a new partnership that we're building. But first, I have to give you a little bit of history. Back in 2010, my predecessor, the Honorable Eric Hoskins, and Helen Burstyn, do you want to stand up just for a second and say hello to everyone? Let's give her a big round of applause. She's been doing a lot of work. They came together to launch the partnership project, and it began with a series of consultations that many of you in the room here participated in. And it was during these consultations that you, the not-for-profit sector, identified a need to better understand yourself and the challenges that you faced here in Ontario. At the end of the day, you can't manage what you can't measure, and you can't plan for the future. So our government committed to coming up with some basic research on the sector. Its size, its scope, its socio-economic impact, and today I'm pleased to present to you some of that research, some of the findings from the research. Volume 1 of the State of the Sector, a profile on Ontario's not-for-profit sector, is now available on our website. So we've released the document. The research is on, if you go to www.ontario.ca//partnership project, you can find it there. And if you go through the document, you'll find out early within the document, it's pretty exciting stuff. Well, especially for people from the not-for-profit sector, but it is pretty exciting stuff. We're delivering on a key commitment on the partnership project, and we finally have up-to-date data on the sector that will help our decision-making, and it'll allow for not-for-profits in our province to better understand the sector as a whole. And when I look at the findings, three things come out of it that I think are very important. And number one is the size of the sector. You know, the sector here in Ontario employs over 300,000 individuals, full-time and part-time, but 300,000 individuals. The second is our diversity. Not only does the not-for-profit sector represent a lengthy list of causes, but organizations are adapting, embracing change to better serve Ontarians. And when you put point 1 and point 2 together, you get number 3. And it's the substantial socio-economic impact of the sector and how it impacts the lives of everyday Ontarians. You play a vital role here at Ontario. You have a positive influence on the quality of life of Ontarians and communities across Ontario, and the research proved that. So congratulations for all that you've been able to achieve. I know this is not something that's just come overnight. It's taken many, many years to get to this point. By expanding on these 3 points, I want to talk to you today about what I think the research means to our government, our plans for Ontario, and our relationship with your sector. The economic impact and how it can work for your advantage. Let's first talk about the economic impact and how you can really use that information. Today's research shows that there are approximately 50,000 not-for-profit organizations in operation in the core not-for-profit sector here in Ontario, employing over 300,000 people, which I mentioned. And that's just the core. That doesn't include, folks who are going in and helping at schools or in hospitals. That's the core not-for-profit sector. That is, and if you think about that, that's 3 times larger than the auto sector here in our province, which is, among the largest in North America. So I think it's quite astonishing. And that also represents 4% of the entire workforce of this province. So it's huge. There's strength in numbers, and we know that when you come with those types of numbers, it gets the attention of government. It's a great example, a great example is how our government partnership, or through our government partnership project. Over 8 months, we've met with 340 not-for-profit organizations, and the consultations were successful. So when the not-for-profit sector came together to have this discussion, you can come forward with that type of strength, that's how we get people to the table. So I think it's an important thing for us to note the size. And again, that's just the core not-for-profit sector. And with the help of organizations like the Ontario Not-for-Profit Network, I expect that you'll continue to work together and reap the benefits of collective action. We know that's quite important. And as I said, there's strength in numbers, and that brings me to my next point. Collaboration is the key to our success, to your success. The research demonstrates how diverse our not-for-profit sector really is. There are so many various kinds of not-for-profits organizations here in Ontario, and we'll be releasing more detailed research over the coming months, broken into subsections, which I think is also important. So we'll get some more detailed data on the subcategories within the larger group. And what we do know now is that organizations across Ontario in the not-for-profit sector look very different from each other. They come in different shapes, different size, they have different financial situations. But because the sector is so diverse, it's important for you to work together to share information and to build capacity. Collaboration, we know, comes naturally to this sector. It's part of your culture, and it's how you do business. Something that also came through the research that many of you may find surprising is how resilient and resourceful Ontario's not-for-profit sector really is as a whole. During our economic downturn a few years ago, it was a sector that continued to maintain stability, and it actually enjoyed some moderate growth, where all other sectors seemed to slightly collapse. This sector had moderate growth. This is partly due to the collaborative and helpful culture embedded deep within the sector. Many not-for-profits rely on innovation to stay strong, and you're embracing technology and finding new streams of revenue. So you're adapting. And thank you to organizations like ONN, not-for-profits are being exposed to new innovations, and they're putting their ideas into action. You're participating in consultations and experimenting with new ideas like social financing and social enterprises. You're also providing government with valuable feedback on things like the Ontario Not-for-Profit Corporation Act and how it affects you. So this information is helpful to us, but we know there's still a lot more work to be done. I believe that the key to your success comes down to working together. And this brings me to my third focus that came out of the research, and that's the socio-economic impact. There is no doubt that the sector, as an employer, has an important economic impact in Ontario's economy. It's the social impact that's harder to qualify or quantify. One conclusion I believe we have is and we have no trouble drawing this conclusion, is that Ontario's not-for-profit really, throughout the province, inspires generosity from our citizens. It truly does. And the fact is, because of your hard work and your commitment, volunteerism here in our province is continuing to grow. You put a positive impact on our communities, and this is really illustrated well through our volunteer sector. And the research shows us that across the core sector, we have almost 3.4, that's within the core sector, 3.4 million volunteers who donate an average of 345 hours each year. I know the larger Corps itself has 6 million volunteers, and there's a total of 860 million hours donated. So this is incredible, and when you compare our jurisdiction here in Ontario to other provinces and other parts of the world, we're doing quite well. I know we're in the top 3 in Canada. So where would we be without our volunteers here in the province? In the coming months, our ministry will be leading a consultation on a province-wide volunteer strategy. And we'll need your passion, your expertise, your help in order to set forward a new vision for volunteerism in Ontario. So there you have it. That's my initial reading of the research that we've conducted. And as I said, this research will allow us to provide vital data against which trends can be measured. Organizations like the Toronto Community Foundation and MOAT and others can use it to support their own research on everything from service delivery, fundraising, staffing, volunteers, and socioeconomic profiles. And we know that this sector influences our quality of life in our province. And I think the research will help prove that. We are committed to working alongside academic not-for-profit organizations to determine where other research gaps exist. We are learning more about research conducted by our partners, and together we can assess new research priorities. And as I mentioned, it's now on MCI's website, and I encourage each and every one of you to go onto the website to look through that research. I believe it'll help you better understand your organizations and how it fits into the larger sector. And we need your best advice to continue to help make the sector grow. And I know that I've been here talking about how well we're doing in the sector, and I don't want to minimize in any way the challenges that the sector has. I understand many of the challenges that you face. From adapting to new legislation, to delivering good services to your communities, from balancing your books, succession planning and building capacity, from recruiting talent and keeping that talent on board, and especially in a time when resources are very limited. It often seems like, and I know my experience when I served as the executive director at an organization, you know, sometimes you feel as though you're being pulled in many different directions. I know how difficult it is. But I want you to continue to have faith in the sector as a whole, and I want you to be assured that this government cares about the sector, and I want you to have confidence that we'll continue to work with you to make sure that we can find ways that will allow the sector to be supported, and it'll allow it to continue to grow. For the first time, you have a seat at the table in the Partnership Forum, and I know the work of the Forum under the leadership of Helen is quite strong. And for the first time in 10 years, we understand we've got some really good data that really captures the size, the scope, and the influence of the sector as a whole. So I'm grateful to each and every one of you for the work you do every single day to strengthen the sector, but even more importantly, to help people of Ontario in their daily lives. So I appreciate what you're doing, and I know that our Premier was here earlier, and I'm sure she conveyed the exact same message. I want to thank those of you who sit on the Partnership Project and provide us with, our ministry, with the great advice it receives. And I'd like to close by thanking Kathy Taylor and the folks at ONN. Thank you so much for the great work you've done to build this partnership, mainly around open business and the Partnership Project. It's really making a difference in the province. I also just wanted to acknowledge our staff from the Ministry of Citizenship and Immigration, because you know, this is something that they're committed to working on every day, and I just wanted to say thank you for your work. So I'd like to end by just quoting one of my favorite people. I think you all know her, the Honorable Kathleen Wynne, who was who's here a little bit earlier today. And she says, "We are working to bring people together to find common ground, because that's what we do in Ontario. We find fair, creative solutions to the challenges we face, so we can succeed together." So I want to thank you very much for listening, and I do encourage you to get onto the website, ontario.ca/partnership project. Download that report. I think it'll really bring some insight into what we're doing in the province as a whole. And I just want to say thank you so much for the hard work you put in every day to make Ontario a better place. Thank you so much.